actually my first triathlon was a full Ironman. So before I did the 6-on-6 continents, I had done one other Ironman before that for my 30th birthday.
Okay.
And I was doing a half Ironman to train for the full Ironman, but I ended up getting in a very bad accident. So I ended up getting hit by another cyclist going downhill like full speed, and I woke up taped to a stretcher and a neck brace in the back of an ambulance. And I wake up on August 15th, look at my phone, and it literally, you know, like I have all these news alerts, and I was like, oh my God, what happened while I was sleeping? And I remember, I mean, I was like such a crazy person. I had a gym date that morning with a friend of mine. And so I go to meet her at Equinox, and I was just like, I mean, I'm like telling the desk girl, I'm like, Ashraf Ghani just like left. I mean, everyone is looking at, like, I felt like I was surrounded by all these people that did not understand like the weight of what was really going on. And we never lost sight of our goal to get to the half Ironman World Championship. And so we took Zainab to do that, this past month, and she was actually the last person to finish the race. She had 63 seconds left to spare.
Wow.
But carried that Afghan flag proudly across the finish line of the half Ironman World Championship. And yeah, I mean, it was amazing to really, I mean, I said in 2018, you know, like that we wanted to get a Afghan woman across the finish line of the half Ironman World Championship, but it took till 2022 to do it.
Jackie Faye is the first woman to complete 6 Ironmans across 6 continents in 1 year. Not only is the 6-in-6 an incredible feat, but she set out from the very beginning to do so with a bigger purpose in mind, to inspire and invest in women around the world. Her journey as a NATO journalist in Afghanistan gave her the opportunity to inspire countless others and make an impact supporting and coaching local Afghan women in their own historic feats. Today's conversation takes us quite literally around the world as Jackie shares about the nonprofit she's launched, the business that she owns, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying stories like these so we can bring you more. And here is Jackie. The way your name was introduced to me as the first woman to compete in 6 Ironmans on 6 continents in 1 year, right? Is that an accurate description?
That's
right.
An accurate
That's how you described it.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the journey to an Ironman like? Sports your whole life. Have you been into Ironmans for a long time?
So I was, I grew up playing sports. It's always been a part of who I am and just part of my identity. And in my 30s, I found myself, working as a military journalist in like a very male-dominated environment in Afghanistan. And I, wanted to start an organization to help other women have the same opportunities in sports that I've had. But to launch the organization, I wanted to do something a little crazy. And I thought, what better way to get my, organization on the map than to do something that no other woman has done. And also, as I'm, training other women, I wanted to show them, like, I know what it takes to really put yourself out there, because it was scary. And especially with the 6-on-6 continents in a year, one is scary. But then if you, let's say I had done 5 and failed on the 5th one, well, then I would have to start over, you know what I mean? So like every single one, like the stakes were a little higher. So I know what it's like to, compete with nerves, and when you feel like people are really watching you, and when you put yourself out there. And I wanted to, lead by example, but then I always say I would never demand someone else do anything that I also want to do myself.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. What was like your first kind of long distance competition of any? Like, did you do marathons first? Did you do Ironmans early on? What?
So, I did do a marathon in my 20s, actually with another nonprofit called Ansley's Angels. pushing someone that was disabled in a wheelchair through the whole Marine Corps marathon. But yeah, I've always been a runner. And then my first triathlon was a full Ironman. So before I did the 6-on-6 continents, I had done one other Ironman before that for my 30th birthday.
Okay.
And I was doing a half Ironman to train for the full Ironman, but I ended up getting in a very bad accident. So I ended up getting hit by another cyclist going downhill, like full speed. And I woke up taped to a stretcher and a neck brace in the back of an ambulance. And so I always say, I didn't even finish my first triathlon.
Oh my gosh.
And then I turned around and did a full Ironman, with less than 2 months after that. I still had skint knees from the accident when I finished my first Ironman, which was 6 days before my 30th birthday.
Wow, what do you think it was in you that you're like, no, I'm still gonna do this? Like after an accident like that, you don't back out. You're not like, this is scary.
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah.
Like we fall down.
Yeah.
You are going to fall down in life, like you will.
Yeah.
And that's not your defining moment. I think your defining moment is when you stand back up.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you do your first full one, and then you're like, I'll do 6 of these in 1 year.
Yeah, but it was really just to launch the organization.
Awesome.
Yeah, it did put me on. My goal was to get some attention around it. I ended up on the Today Show, so mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's unbelievable when you think about it. What were the 6 locations? Where were each of them at?
Yeah, so I started in Australia, and then I headed to Switzerland, and then Taiwan, and then Argentina, and then South Africa, and then I finished in Boulder, Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and it was nice because my last one was in the U.S., and then I had a group of friends that because a lot of them I just did by myself.
Yeah.
But then that last one I had a lot of my friends there, and it was so nice to be kind of like coming home to that last one.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite, one that stood out? Were they all unique?
I love South Africa. It's so gorgeous. Yeah,
Wow.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful location.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I was on the bicycle just looking around, and I'm like, I cannot believe it was just the most beautiful place.
Yeah. What is training like for that amount in 1 year? What was your routine schedule? How'd you get ready for that?
People are always think that I'm this super disciplined athlete, and I'm not. I work out really hard, but that's just my lifestyle all the time. And I eat healthy, but the night before a race, I have a glass of wine, it helps me sleep a little bit better. I'm not, I live my life, and also, I think because I've done so many, I realize how doable they are.
Yeah.
And I think to someone that's never done something like that, they see it as this, very undoable thing.
Yeah.
But then, and I try to always remember how I felt before I did my first one. Because before my first one, I literally thought I was going to die. And then by the time I had done it 7 times, I was like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
It's so I'm always a big advocate for flexing your bravery muscle.
Wow.
So yeah, I worked out. I would try to cycle every day. And then I did a lot of HIIT training. But I wasn't running and also my shoulders, if I swim a lot, my shoulders get really sore. So I would often just, swim on race day. I would swim a couple of times, leading up to, and to make sure I still know how to swim. But but yeah, sometimes if you work certain muscles too much, you might need to save them for the actual competition.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's just such an incredible accomplishment. And if you're not in that world at all, maybe it's hard to even comprehend how much goes into that or what those physical feats are like. But to do 6 in 1 year, it's just incredible. It really is. I don't know if you can even feel it or see it because you're just I did it. But it's on the outside, it's amazing.
Well, in that, I think I also, I did want to feel accomplished in myself, but at the time, when I was doing that goal, like I said, I was working in Afghanistan, and here I was surrounded by a culture where a lot of women would not have that opportunity. And so I think I went from, I'm proud of myself, don't get me wrong, but I really, in doing that, also while working in Afghanistan, I realized how privileged I am. I mean, just to even have a U.S. passport to where I can quickly get on a plane to go to some of these countries. Like for an Afghan woman, one, they probably don't have the funds to do it because they're not making as much money. Two, they have a culture that doesn't allow them just to walk outside their door and run down the street or ride their bicycle down the street. And three, even if they had all those things, I mean, their passport to get a visa to go anywhere is very, very, very difficult. Right. So I don't think people realize, like, one of the most, just by being American, we have so much power in our passport.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the amazing things about your journey to me was when you set out to do this, you had like a bigger purpose in mind already. You're like, I want to inspire women. I want to, be on the map and radar and impact lives. And so I am curious, in that journey, how did you then get connected with, I think if we were to move towards Zainab even, and maybe you can give some context as to why you're in Afghanistan in the first place and so on, but that part of your story is just so unbelievable to me, the other lives you've impacted, along the way in your own journey.
Yeah, so after I did the 6 Ironmans on 6 continents within 1 year, I thought, well, I've done this. My goal in launching the organization was to empower other women. And I thought, gosh, if anyone needs empowering, it's these women in Afghanistan, where I was already working as a military journalist for NATO. And so I took steps to recruit the first women triathletes in Afghanistan. And we were very small. I mean, at the most, we had 4 athletes. And yeah, my first thing that I did is I took them to show them a half Ironman in Dubai. And then got them in a pool. And I mean, they didn't even know how to swim when I first recruited them. Yeah. I was telling you the other day that literally after our first swim practice, like, I started crying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to get these women to swim, more than a mile in open water. And so I said, okay, don't think about the goal as like this whole thing. Like, think about the goal in small little chunks. Like, the first thing that I can do is teach them how to swim. And so I taught them some skills, while we were at that training camp in Dubai. And then my organization paid for them to go swimming twice a week, including like their transportation and the fee to go to the pool, which was very expensive at the time. At the time, you have to remember, Kabul is a city of 6 million people, but they only had 2 swimming pools that allowed women. Most Afghan women didn't work. Maybe 20% of Afghan women worked. Some of that's only inside their homes. They were lucky if they made a couple $100s a month. But to go to a swimming pool, it was $7 every single time to go swimming. So if you're only making $200 a month, $7 is a large chunk of change. And so, so my organization would pay for that. And then our next step was, teaching them how to cycle. And so we organized a training camp in Spain and took, at that time, 3 of the Afghan women to Spain. And then during the Spain training camp, I really, I got to see them swimming in open water for the first time, got them on bicycles, and realized, I need to dump all of my resources into the 2 athletes that I feel like are going to make it to the race.
Yeah.
And so that was Zara and Zainab. And so that's what we did. And then I flew bicycles into the country for Zara and Zainab, literally like hand carried that. It's because getting nice bicycles to Afghanistan, was super difficult. And so, I was looking into like shipping, but shipping would have cost even more than the bicycle. And so literally the easiest way to get them there was to physically carry them. And the cheapest, because to check a bicycle on an airplane, it was $100. And so I land in Kabul with 2 bicycles. And I've ridden down the streets of Kabul on a bicycle. I've gone to the local pools and gone swimming. I ran a full marathon in Afghanistan with my athletes. And then I sent Zara and Zainab back to the UAE for one last training camp before they competed in February of 2020. And then that's when Zainab finished the half Ironman in Dubai.
And became the first Afghan woman?
She was the first Afghan woman to ever finish Ironman event.
That's unbelievable.
Making history on the finish line of Ironman 70.3 Dubai. You have done it, Zainab. Congratulations. From Afghanistan, history being made.
But our goal wasn't to stop there. You know, our goal was always to go to the half Ironman World Championship. And so, but of course, you know, everyone knows in March of 2020, the world really shut down because of COVID. And so we really had to put, you know, everything that we had done, you know, over the past year, like on hold. And then, but by that time, you know, Zara and Zainab had both went on to earn scholarships to study in the U.S., and things were really changing in Afghanistan, most notably after Biden's announcement, you know, that the troops were all going to leave by September 11th of 2021.
Right. Yeah, this story is incredible too in terms of like your involvement, trying to get them safely here. Talk me through that a little bit, some of the connections you had, some of the stories on the ground.
Yeah, so, you know, with Zara, you know, everything was fine and smooth. She got on an airplane and flew here. I was there, gave her a great big hug.
She was like the week before, was it? Weren't you saying it was pretty close?
It was August 11th was when she landed in the U.S. And then on August 15th, of course, you know, the Taliban, you know, took over Afghanistan. Ashraf Ghani fled the country. You know, I'm in my place here in Austin off of Riverside, and I wake up on August 15th, look at my phone, and it literally, you know, like I have all these news alerts, and I was like, oh my God, what happened while I was sleeping? And I remember, I mean, I was like such a crazy person. I had a gym date that morning with a friend of mine. And so I go to meet her at Equinox, and I was just like, I mean, I'm like telling the desk girl, I'm like, Ashraf Ghani just like left. I mean, everyone is looking at, like, I felt like I was surrounded by all these people that did not understand like the weight of what was really going on. And then, you know, my friend Zainab, you know, I mean, at that point I had known Zainab since 2018. And so I call her and, you know, we're trying to figure out what we should do. All flights, you know, commercial flights had been canceled. And I'm talking to people that, you know, I knew in the 4-star general's office in Tampa. And they tell me, well, you know, you should tell her to go to the airport, and if you know anybody on the ground, maybe they can help her still get onto a flight. And so I messaged her very late. I get confused with the time change. So it was like Sunday, like evening, but then, you know, they're ahead of us. And so by Sunday night, you know, it's like morning, Monday in Afghanistan. She heads to the airport. We're like texting the whole time. And then she gets there. I can't get in touch with anybody on the ground. Everyone's sleeping. It's like 6 a.m.
Jackie Faye, everyone is just coming to the airport. There is no checkpoint. They are not taking any luggage or anything. There are so many people here. Jackie Faye, there is no possible way to go. There is only one airplane and the American soldier. I don't know.
And I'm like text messaging like people I know that can help her. I'm like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, you know. And then finally, my friend who is an Italian special forces officer woke up, and he's like, okay, I'm going to try to drive to the airfield. I sent him her passport, a picture of her, her visa, like everything that I had, like documentation on her. And, you know, he's showing his like, you know, NATO IDs to get her past the American guards. And then gets her to a diplomatic flight. And I knew as soon as she was able to get to Istanbul, that she would be fine to get the rest of the way to the U.S. But yeah, the flight that she was on, literally the former foreign minister of Afghanistan was on this flight. Like all these people from the vice president's office. Like this was a flight for high up Afghan officials, Turkish diplomats, and then Zainab.
Yeah.
And so we really the stars just really aligned to get her out that day.
Well, and even for people to understand the impact of like what you did for her, you were saying, I think her family is still or was in a refugee camp for the whole next year, right?
So then her husband and brother did get to on another evacuation flight to go to a refugee camp in Abu Dhabi. And her husband has since, left. I mean, he was, I mean, I've seen him in America since, and then her brother is still there.
Wow.
We're still working to see if we can get them visas through. She can try, but the process is so slow.
Yeah.
I mean, the country fell so quickly. That, getting out the people that, need to get out, it was, it wasn't an easy job, but yeah, we evacuated some people that probably didn't need to be evacuated, and we left a lot of, friends there.
Yeah.
Wow. We left a lot of friends there.
What was it like greeting her here in the States when she finally got here?
Oh my God, I think we both cried. We were both just exhausted.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it was great to get her settled, and I felt like her mom. Like I was, she when she's going to grad school, but I took her and got her plates and dishes, or she had nothing. She had one suitcase.
Right.
And unlike a lot of students coming here, they have a whole support system, a family. She doesn't have that, and so I just I took her to the grocery store and got her enough food, and got her cell phone and her bank account set up, and so just but I mean now I think she's doing really, really great. She's going to graduate soon.
Yeah,
so,
I think you were saying they both got scholarships here.
Yeah, so they were both Fulbright scholars.
That's amazing.
So I mean, she can try, like I said, was small, but we were a really a quality program, and we, I mean, I spent over a year with these women.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that with quality programming, you can really make a huge difference in people's lives.
Yeah. And we're just a couple weeks removed from one of the big goals having taken place, right?
Yeah. So, I forget my dates. Last Friday, I guess. So we never lost sight of our goal to get to the Half Ironman World Championship. And so we took Zainab to do that, this past month. And she was actually the last person to finish the race. She had 63 seconds left to spare.
Wow.
But carried that Afghan flag proudly across the finish line of the Half Ironman World Championship. And I mean, it was amazing to really, I mean, I said in 2018, that we wanted to get a Afghan woman across the finish line of the Half Ironman World Championship, but it took till 2022 to do it.
That's unbelievable.
And we dealt with a pandemic and a country falling to,
Right.
I mean, we did
so crazy.
a lot of hurdles.
Yeah. I mean, are you able, and I love the way you talked about it when we first met too, not wanting to take just anything away from their hard work, dedication, what they've accomplished and so on. And at the same time, are you able to sit back and look at this big picture? I'm setting off, I'm doing these 6 Ironmans. I want to inspire women now all the way to the impact that you've made in their lives and the way you've inspired so many through that. Are you able to sit and look at that now as kind of, not this complete story, it's in progress, but kind of what's happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you say it like that, it makes our story seem so picture perfect, but there was a lot of struggles along the way. And I learned a lot about myself and how to be a better leader. I mean, I'll say, there were times I wasn't being a leader is really, really hard. And I learned how to communicate better as to like what I need, you know, like, and even, you know, like I said, like there were volunteers all over the world that wanted to help us, but I felt like I was getting like pushed in like all these directions. I think like nonprofits deal with that a lot is, and you know, they call it mission creep. And like people are like, oh, well, why don't you do this great thing and do this great thing? And then before you know it, you're like doing something that you like did not set out to do at all. And so for me, like, as the founder of She Can Try, like I'm firm on like what our organization needs to be doing. But I think, you know, it took me a little while to be able to really communicate that clearly. And also, you know, in a nice way. I don't think I always mastered that part of it. So yeah, I think I've grown a lot through this journey as well. But that's, you know, what it's all about. And I'm sure I'll continue to grow. You know, we're all always growing. I don't want to pretend to be like this great leader because I'm not. Like, I had lots of struggles.
I think you might be, but yeah.
But like I had lots and lots of struggles.
No, it's just an unbelievable, and that's a fast version, you know, of just so many amazing pieces. And I mean, details you were sharing, like not being able to train outside, like run outside, and they had to come in the like compound where you're at so that they can train safely with you.
Yeah,
like,
there's some safe areas you can run outside in Afghanistan, but you have to drive like far away, like in the mountains, you know, like there are safe areas to run outside. But certainly like in some neighborhoods, it just wouldn't be safe. Yeah. So.
Well, this kind of ties into even some of the self-learnings and self-awareness and how you're wired and all that. But part of what fascinated me too was even hearing about younger you, your childhood, and how some of the things that maybe, you know, drove you to be successful aren't maybe still the same things that are driving you today. Like you've had some learnings around that. But I'm curious if you would, you know, let us in a little bit into kind of how you developed with this incredible drive, you know, amazing like work and grit that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the most defining thing that's ever happened to me in my life was the death of my mother. You know, like my dad, you know, had just retired from the Air Force and moved, you know, me and my two older sisters and my mom, we all moved back to their hometown in South Carolina. And yeah, my mom came home one day. And I mean, all she could say was, you know, that she didn't want to leave her babies. And she just kept saying that over and over again. And my mom was a nurse, you know, so I think she knew like instantly how bad her cancer was. And, you know, from the moment that she told us to her death was 10 weeks. So yeah, she died, you know,
so
very,
fast.
very quickly. And yeah, you know, I always say my mom died when I was 9 and my dad got remarried when I was 9. So at like the split of adolescence, you know, my whole world really turned upside down. And, you know, after my dad got remarried, you know, like the home that I grew up in, it was just abusive. And so I found an outlet in sports. And so I often, you know, when I say that sports is part of my identity and saved me, like I mean that. Like if it had not been for sports, like I don't know where I would be. And so, and not only did sports keep me not just like physically fit, but it also put me into such a smart crowd. You know, I didn't grow up like with a lot of money. You know, I've always been thrifty and like had to borrow things, and I don't know, like I always just made it work, right? And so I've always been like, you know, very frugal because I've had to be. I was a scholarship kid, you know, like I you know, got a scholarship to go to the University of South Carolina. And then I ended up getting another, you know, full ride to get my master's at Columbia University. But, you know, so I think when people see some of these things that you accomplish, they assume that, you know, oh, well, she must have had a lot of support or like, and that's not my story. You know, I've struggled. It's made me who I am. And I like who I am. So I wouldn't change any of that. But yeah, I mean, I really think that I could do I really do believe in myself as well. Like I just think I could handle anything that comes my way.
Wow.
And so, but yeah, I've been through a lot, but then having that outlet to help me deal with my own trauma There's some women that don't have that same outlet. So that's, that's what She Can Try is all about, is providing that same outlet to women that really need it most and that are hard to reach.
Wow. Yeah. Well, when we met, you had phrased it in this way, something like, when I see high achievers now, my question is like, what happened to you? Or like, you said something like that. You're like, there's something behind that.
So I think, it took me a long time to really do like the self-work and to realize, why I was doing all these things. I think, I often just, put on like the blinders and went through like the motions and yeah, I mean, I think, we think of distractions like often as very bad things like drinking or drugs or whatever, women. So like that's what we always think like distractions are, but distractions can also be seemingly good things. Like constantly, doing the next Ironman or traveling the world or the next degree. And those things are good, but I think at some point it's also good to say like, I'm enough. Like I'm enough. Wow. And you see that saying all the time that says like, you are enough. And I'm like, I don't think I ever really got it like until I got it, And so like, you asked me like, when are you competing again? And like, I feel like, I mean, I have enough medals. Like I've traveled. Like I've done pretty much everything that I want.
I've achieved. I've checked it.
Like I really, like for me now, I really want to focus on the friendships and relationships that I have. And my relationships are my next goal. Is like focusing more on enriching my relationships.
Yeah, no, I was curious. And maybe relationships is the answer, but when you're like, I'm coming at it from a place of I do like me, I do feel like I'm enough, or maybe more often than I used to. Like, what is that? What drives you now? What is the next like? Okay, this is my inspiration. I'm not trying to achieve necessarily in the same sense that I once was. Would you say that relationships is the answer? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we always need to. So you say like, what drives you now? As if I'm driven now. Like, maybe I'm just good.
It's just me. Just you. I just am.
So I just am.
I love
and
that.
it's a great place to be.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I love it. Well, I think maybe the only other kind of big piece, not the only, there's so much to the story, but 1 January, we haven't hit on that yet. Just the inspiration behind that, what's the dream there?
So like I said, I think that, people really wanted to help with She Can Try. And I wanted to give them a very easy way to feel connected to our work and also help. And so I started an activewear line 1 January. And so it's called 1 January, named for the millions actually born into conflict or poverty every single year. And so a lot of people that are born in a war zone or in very poor areas don't even get like a date of birth when they're born. And so when they go to apply for official documents later in life, the most common date that they're given is 1 January. And so we're named for the people that really didn't even think that they would make it in life. And all of our products are made from recycled plastic bottles. And we donate $1 for every dollar that we make back to She Can Try to give sports and leadership opportunities to these women. And I mean, women that wear 1 January can say, and not only am I doing something, hopefully they'll be going to the gym in it, but they're also truly helping somebody else. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. I heard about the reason behind the name and like the story, there's just something about, it feels like everything you do has connected to some kind of purpose, some kind of higher, like, here's my goal, my dream behind this. Do you feel like you've just kind of always been that way? Do you feel like you have this kind of mission-focused approach to what you do that it's just, it feels different, on the other side of you, but...
people are like, well, how did that happen? I'm like, honestly, like a lot of things in life happen on accident. I think the key, though, is... what possibly makes me different from a lot of other people is I'm not scared to step out of my comfort zone. And I think a lot of people get doors opened right in front of them, but they forget to walk through the door. You know, like if the door is open, go through the door. Like there might be something great on the other side, but I think a lot of people are just so scared to go through the door. But the worst thing that's going to happen is you turn around and you go back the other way. I mean, there is nothing scary. You know, like I don't know that, you know, when I first went to Afghanistan, like I was living in New York City, you know, like, and got this opportunity. And I thought, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Got on a military plane to Afghanistan. You know, like when I decided to launch my organization, travel around the world, like, I mean, I was scared, but like, I mean, I think, if you don't do scary things, you don't get the same reward at the end, right? And so, but you know, one thing just led to another, but it was because I walked through the door, you know, and then another door appeared and I walked through that door.
Well, what would you say to somebody who maybe has a big dream, big goal, big mission, but they are just afraid to take the step? What would you, just do it? Just take the step? Just go through the door? Like, what would you say?
I mean, there's nothing to be scared of. And failure is not something, I used to always say my biggest fear was failure, but like every time now I'm like, well, if you're gonna fail going up, you know, like and like I said, like you are gonna fail in life and you are gonna fall flat on your face, and but like that's not the end. Like, you know, stand back up.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we like to kind of just end by asking each guest that we have, like, what inspires you today?
I mean, I think just, you know, I've been traveling for so long and just being, you know, in Austin, in like a peaceful place, that's inspiring to me. Nature, I mean, look around. This is inspiring.
It's an amazing spot.
We don't have to go very far to find inspiration. Like, open your eyes. I mean, you're inspiring. Like, there's so many, like, beautiful things around us. If we just, you don't need to look for, like, this big, giant, inspirational thing. Like everything's inspiring. Like, the world.
That's awesome. I love it. There's, like, this beauty in the simple things. It's just, it's awesome. That's great. Well, I really seriously appreciate your story. I still have this feeling like you just don't even quite know how amazing it is to people to hear it for the first time, which is great. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise, but it's awesome listening to all the pieces, what you've done, the lives you've impacted. You're leaving this legacy and this inspiration behind you. It's really cool. So really appreciate sitting down, getting to know you, getting to talk with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.